Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Well, it's Thursday, and this video is a Theme Thursday video, meaning that every week on Thursday I pick a theme to make a video about, and then I encourage other members of the NFGeeks Facebook forum to also make a video around that same theme. And this week's theme is a very special one, okay? More special than we've been having, actually, even that. And that is the theme this week is to make a response video to the video on being ugly, which was a video that was posted on the NFGeeks Facebook forum. And what this video is a response video to that video. And I'm encouraging other members of the forum to also make response videos. Now, that video, the video I'm talking about, called On Being Ugly, has nothing to do with NFGeeks or anything. Somebody posted it on the forum. It's a video by this young woman. Her YouTube channel is called Karakamos, and she basically talks about her feelings and wrestling with the idea of being ugly, and what does it mean to be this person? How do you get around it? Not even get around it, transcend it. That's what I would say this video is really about. It's about transcending the idea of being ugly. Okay, and it's very beautiful and very profound and very insightful. And it's a joy to watch, and I encourage anybody who watches this video, my video, to watch that one on being ugly. It's absolutely worth your time. So I thought it would be a great idea to sort of create responses to that video. It being very inspiring. Now, one thing that's going to be a little different about this video than other videos is that I'm going to dial down the typology talk, okay, and the jargon, really. So I'm really not going to talk about personality type and functions of type and all the stuff that I usually talk about on NFGeeks. I'm going to put that aside because the issues specifically of the video, I think, of her video, warrant direct addressing without any of that. And I want other people who are not involved with personality typology to watch my video in order to be inspired by it too. And so I don't want to fill it up with all sorts of jargon, that's going to make people alienated from whatever it is I'm trying to talk about. So, I'm not going to really be talking about personality type a lot with this one. All right. So what I am going to talk about in this video is what the impact of all this was. That's really sort of the point of my video, is really to kind of communicate this is how it impacted me, and this is what came out of me because of this video. That's the main idea of what I'm talking about here. And so the first thing I want to talk about is basically a little analysis as to how do things like this happen. Okay, it's not a critique of her or anything. It's actually it's about the process we all have. Okay, when we're sort of adopting something that's that we've adopted an idea that we've made part of ourselves, and how does that happen? Because there was some talk about that in some of the comments on her video and on the forum, and people talking about it, and I wanted to address that issue. And the reason for that is, and I'm going to talk a lot about feelings, my own feelings in this. One of the feelings I had was sadness. Okay, from this video, I had a ton of feelings. Okay, whole spectrum, but I want to start with that one, sadness. And one of the reasons why I felt sadness was because the concept of being ugly, I mean her being ugly, the idea that is the sentence "I am ugly" was still present throughout the whole video. It was there. You know what I mean? It didn't leave. She wasn't letting it rule her life. That was clear. And she was talking about how to move beyond these things and wrestle with them and try to, be out there. And, that was obvious, her fighting the good fight against this demon. She certainly was fighting that good fight against the demon. That nobody can take that away from her. But the concept of "I am ugly" never left. It was still there. Even at the end of the video, it was there. I could feel it, sense it. There's a part of her that did think I am ugly. It was It was still around, still making an impact. And so I started thinking about, well, why that is with any of us, okay? What is the process by which that takes place? Because that's important. Actually, this video is actually about that idea, So what I started thinking about is the process of internalization, okay? I say that because a lot of people talk about how it's society and society's views of beauty and image, conscious society, this sort of very global big thing. And I don't think that's what happens at all. I do not believe that is how negative ideas of the self originate from there, okay? It happens through a process of internalization. Okay, this is the process, and then we'll get to the source. A process of internalization. Internalization is when you, and I'm sure many of you know this, but when you take an idea or an experience, okay, and you bring it in and you relate it to the self, you connect it to the self, and you even make it part of the self, and it becomes so cemented in that you sort of make it a self-evident, innate truth about the self. Okay, it's just real, all right? You've made it so much a part of you, you forgot that it came from some other external source, okay? So now the process itself is neither good nor bad. It's kind of neutral. So like lots of good things get internalized, like family values and society values and morality, and all sorts of good things go that path. But it is the path of everything awful you believe about yourself. Everything awful you believe, whatever it is, okay? Make the list. Y'all know it anyway. Whatever it is you believe about yourself to be true, that's bad, came through a process of internalization. Okay, that's how it got there. And what it does is, I'm going to get all Carl Rogers on everybody. What it does is that it interferes with your self-concept. Your self-concept are all the ideas you have about yourself that you believe to be true. Okay, so whatever they are that you believe to be true, that's your self-concept. That informs your self-esteem, your feelings about yourself. If you have good mental health, that's because you have good self-esteem. That's because you have a good self-concept. Okay, if you have bad mental health sometimes, it's because you have low self-esteem, emotional issues, and that's because you have a bad self-concept. And bad self-concepts come from ideas that are negative being internalized from an external source. Okay, so there's this idea, it's negative, it's about you take it in, you internalize it, you forget that it didn't exist, it didn't actually exist in you, you sort of make it part of yourself as if it's always been there, and now it's there. Okay. It's a very powerful thing to have happen, and honestly, so much bad stuff in our lives is a process of internalization. Okay, I'm going to give an example. Before I was a college instructor, I worked in academic support and tutoring, and there's basically three types of students that go to tutoring in a college. The first one is the student that just needs some skills help. Okay, they've been out of college for a while, or they just didn't learn these skills in high school, whatever it is, study skills, how to run a lab, anything, and so they just need some extra time to learn the skills in order to pass. That's the normal average student. You have another set of students are just students who have too much going on in their life. It doesn't matter how much tutoring they have, and it could be good things. They have this awesome 60-hour-a-week job making, money hand over fist, or it could be heroin addiction, and everything in between. But they don't have, whatever's going on in their life has to come to an end in order for college to succeed. So, the tutoring isn't going to help. And then the third kind, and this is the important one. These are students who show up for tutoring and academic support on time, all the time, notebooks filled with notes, all their books, all their notebooks, following all the instructing, note cards for studying, everything. They've just gone way over the top. They're getting all A's, okay? They don't even need to come to tutoring, but you want to know why they come? They all have the same story. Somebody in their past, in their childhood, said to them, "You're stupid. You're dumb," and that got cemented in and has never left them. And even though they devote 20, 30 hours a week to studying, and they're getting all A's in their honors classes, that doesn't matter. Okay, they're stupid. It's still in their brain. Okay, that's the power of internalization. So that made me think sad about this young woman, that this had gotten internalized, and it got cemented in, and it's so cemented in that it's still there even in this video, this courageous video, this triumphant video where she's talking about her wrestling with it and transcending it. It's really about transcending it. It's still there. It never goes away. She never says I'm not ugly. You know what I mean? And even when she says it, she doesn't say it in a way that she knows it's not true. You know what I mean? It's always there, and that's internalization. And that led to the next feeling that I had that the impact of me, which was anger. Okay, I got angry. So the overall angry position was, I just hate the world. The world is a horrible and cruel place. And so just sort of being mad at the whole world. But then I thought about how this really goes down, and internalization, and I alluded to this in the student story. Internalization comes from actual people. That's why I'm not big into the whole society kind of image thing. It's not. All the crap that we've internalized that's really bad, that's really holding us back, that really hurts us, came from people in our real lives. Okay? Came from actual human beings dealing with us in the real world. Okay? It's not YouTube or TV or something. It's the real world people. Mothers, fathers, whatever. Brothers, sisters, friends, teachers, real actual people. And so that means real actual people did this to her, okay, created an internalized process. And this is the world according to Mike, but if I had to put my finger on it, who did this, I'll tell you who I think did it. I smell Mean Girls. Yeah, that's what I think. I think there's mean girls in the shadows lurking around this internalization, whether it's mean girls in the present or mean girls in the past. And look, there's mean girls in like elementary school, you know what I mean, who do this, part of the pretty people and make people hate themselves. So I sense mean girls, and this is the anger in me about this. And the thing about mean girls is that in the cartoons and TV and movies, the mean girls are very direct. It's you're ugly. They go right up and do that. And granted, mean girls are cruel, and sometimes they do that. But truthfully, mean girls, act in very subtle, very passive-aggressive, indirect ways. It's all in the mist. They can disavow any one behavior. But it's always little things like slight laughing and staring and turning your back on somebody and like ignoring them when they're talking to you and sort of making plans with them but then just breaking up the plans with them, and then there's always these subtle ways of showing it, and that gets internalized. So I guess my point being is that a mean girl doesn't have to go up to somebody and say you're ugly to communicate that they think you're ugly and then for you to internalize it. Okay, but honestly, mean girls are mean and they do say awful things like that. So I can't push them all off a cliff. That's what I say. But that made me angry. Realizing that real human beings did this. It wasn't something conceptual. You didn't have to get all postmodern and symbolic interactionist about it to understand how this all worked. It was actual people that did this, said it, or communicated it in some way that now it's locked in. Okay. Cemented in. So mean girls. Now that's kind of the negative stuff. I also had some positive feelings, and I felt happy and I felt pride and awe, about all this, all at once, because this was really an amazing video. And talk about going out on a limb like this, especially since what she's talking about, and this fascinated me. She's talking about her own issues with her own aesthetic qualities, okay, and trying to transcend them. And at the same time, if you watch the video, her head fills the whole camera, the whole, screen. She's close to the camera, or has, changed the view or whatever. But, her head fills the screen, and so you as the viewer are forced to deal with whatever aesthetic qualities you think she has. It forces you to wrestle with her visual appearance and her issues with ugliness. So you're listening to her talking about being ugly, and now you're faced looking at her, and it's her whole face, and you have to sort of wrestle with that, that whole bit. And it's brilliant too. It's brilliant. And her analysis of this is so very beautiful and insightful and deep and transcending. She does, she owns it. She doesn't like take it away, throw it away. She tries to own it and transcend it, which is, I suppose, is the right thing to do. And So it's just very courageous to do all that. Talk about this thing that really bothers you and hurts you and you're carrying around with, and talk about it openly, and then at the same time put your face onto the screen so that people have to directly deal with it, you know. Oh, it's amazing. So I was very proud of her, you know, for doing that, for having that courage, and that made me happy. And, you know, and again, awe-inspiring. You know, I was like, wow, look at this. You know, this is brilliant. I wish I had thought of this. Not really, but but you know, it was very, very profound, and I really appreciated that. Now, the last thing though, and I really want to hit this home, the last feeling I had was fear. Okay, I genuinely had fear over it because of all the you know, because of everything, and it did make me uncomfortable. And the fear came from this analysis I had, which was, well, you know, what's my ugly, you know, what's my internalized thing that I have to wrestle with, you know, all the time, and you know, and what does that mean, and you know, things like that, having to, you know, connect with those ideas. And so that's what I want to do, is I want to, you know, end this video talking about what did I internalize, because I really think, you know, the best way to honor her, the best way I can honor her, is to follow her lead and to do what she did, or at least try to do what she did. Not as eloquently, but you know, to try to do, you know, try to have the courage to talk about, you know, what I've internalized the way she did, and put herself out there, you know. And I would encourage anyone else to do that too in response videos, instead of talking about, you know, oh no, you're really pretty, you know, talk about, you know, follow her lead and put your shit out there, you know. So what's mine? Well, that's easy. In fact, you know, if you think about it, you can get to it really fast, you know. Mine, simply put, is, you know, if I was to make one of these videos, it'd be called, on being a fuck up. That's what mine would be, for sure, that I am just a total screw up in every place in life. That's the thing that I wrestle with all the time, particularly in love. That's the worst. You know, I've crashed that plane so many times, you know, maybe it's time to give up being a pilot. You know, so I feel basically a screw up in everything. A screw up, you know, I don't have any money, really. I have very little money, if at all any money. I live in this tiny little apartment, you know, it's like a shoebox. You know, I have this rinky-dink job. You know, I got nothing to show for myself. You know, everything's just a screw up, barely able to handle anything. You know, totally messed up love, and everywhere I could have messed it up. So that's the, you know, that's the thing I wrestle with. You know, that's what I wrestle with, just being a total screw up. Now I get, it may not be exactly the same way that I'm thinking of it, but I kind of get not wanting to hear I'm pretty. You know, well, I like hearing I'm pretty, but I don't necessarily like hearing I'm not a fuck up. And the reason for that is that no matter what, it's a lose-lose, because it brings attention to it, and it brings attention to the feelings. So you know, if somebody tells me I'm a fuck up, I fucked up, well, I do fuck up. If I'm, you know, being a fuck up, and somebody says, Mike, you're a fuck up, okay, that's going to be the natural reaction of running away and crying and eating ice cream. You know, and I would do that. Like, that's really, I'd probably eat Chinese food then ice cream, but that's what I would do. But the other side of it is people wanting to say, oh, Mike, you're not a fuck up. That brings attention to it, and it feels phony to me. It feels like, no, you don't know, you know, I'm a fuck up, and you just don't know yet. And then again, I have this anxiety that, okay, you know, I'm only going to keep this charade going for so long. They don't think I'm a fuck up, but eventually they will think I'm a total screw up, because I'll screw up, and then the true reality of me will happen. And then not only will they call me a screw up like the other person did, they will also be disappointed because they had this expectation that I wasn't a screw up, but I really am a screw up, and then I have to face that. So that's really my thing, and I'm not kidding. Like, this is my real issue, is like just feeling like a total loser in life. Being in my mid-40s isn't helping, I'll say that. You know, that makes it worse. It means I'm on borrowed time, you know. And what can I do? What new skills can I have? You know? So always feeling like I'm a total fuck up, screw up, you know, doofus clown in every aspect of my life, no matter what, is mine. And one thing that she's better than I am in is that, you know, she's wrestling with it. She's transcending, or at least trying to transcend. You know, she's fighting that fight. I've pretty much thrown my hands up. I haven't been like, oh, that's it, I'm a screw up. Oh well, you know, I've kind of, I don't want to say thrown in the towel, but I'm certainly not fighting the good fight. I've stopped doing that. So, or I don't know if I ever did that. But that's where I am, and so I encourage all of you to do that. Okay, and I know it's hard to do what she did, or even what I did. And what I did is not as deep as what she did, but to sort of honor her and talk about what your thing is, what your internalized thing is, and get it out there. I think that honors her courage and putting herself out there. Okay. Now the last thing I want to say is for her. Okay, not that she's watching NFGeeks, but just in case. What I want to say is that there's a difference between being pretty and being beautiful, and they are not the same things. We think they're the same things, and that's because the pretty people have taken over the word beautiful for themselves, knowing that they're not beautiful. Okay, and we've all bought into that. So what I would say first is that separate those terms out. Okay, they are not the same thing. Beautiful is something much more special than being pretty. And so the reason why I want to say that is that are you pretty? Are you not pretty? I know you don't want to hear whether or not you're pretty, so who the hell cares? But you are beautiful, and so take that with you. All right. So make your videos, and let's see how this turns out.